Good morning, friends. Oh, geez, don't drop something. My name is Ben, if you haven't met me. I run the youth ministry here. I also run marketing with Miss Kristen, our kids director. Yeah, sorry, I'm what you got this morning. My bad. Apologies in advance. Send Jonathan an email again. All right. So a few weeks ago, my good friend, formerly bald Christian, gave a sermon. You guys remember that? And he talked about, you guys really liked it. Everyone told me so much how they loved his sermon, so much that it hurt my feelings. You know, even Jonathan was like, does Christian want to go into ministry? Like, he'd be so good at that. I'm like, Jonathan, like, what? Anyway. And then, anyway, you love that he talked about his dating life a little bit, right? Like, gave you a little bit of that. Well, I have a much more awkward dating story to share this morning that my students have already heard. I'm sorry, you guys. They hear a lot of these. They're like, it could be one of like 17. So, they'll know pretty close. No. So, take you guys back 11 years. I was 19 years old and adorable. All right. I had no idea how to dress and no sense of style. I was about 150 pounds soaking wet. It's tiny. And I was painfully awkward. But I think that my relentless, undeserved confidence made up for a lot of that. You know, just kind of just stepped forward into things. So one year, when I had just started out in youth ministry, I was an intern with our 5th and 6th grade group at my church, and we had our summer camp at UCYC, United Christian Youth Camp. As we pulled into camp that summer, you know, in the van still, the camp nurse came out to meet us, and I noticed two things about the whole week of camp. I noticed first, one, the camp nurse was really cute. Okay. And two, I was going to be very distracted all week by number one. So we'll call her Nurse Becky for the sermon because that's not her name, and she's married now, and I'd be so embarrassed if she ever saw this. I'm sure she would know it's me from context. I am so sorry. All right. Anyway, so, you know, all week my kids, I had a whole group of 5th and 6th graders, right, 10 to 15. They had little problems all week, a little cut here, or maybe they were just dehydrated. That always happens every time you go to Prescott. 99% of the time, every time a kid is sick, they just need water. Water is just the magic solution to kids' problems at camp. But, you know, rather than just get them some water like I would normally do, I'd be like, let's go see the camp nurse this week. You know, any excuse. And, you know, I was really awkward talking to her. I didn't even I don't think I still don't really know how to flirt, you know? Especially once I'm in a relationship, I'm in one now. I'm good at flirting once that's established, but you know, outside of that, it's hard. I'm not really good at that. So I'd probably just say really awkward things to her, and that was kind of it. But she seemed nice. She wasn't bullying me because of my weirdness, so that's good. When the week came to a close, I, undeservedly bold and shameless as ever, I walked to her nurse cabin just before we left. I think the kids were already in the van real quick. I was like, guys, hold up. So I walked over there, and I asked her out to coffee. I got her phone number, etc. So we talked all week. We set up a date. I was so excited because I really did not ask people out a lot. Just doing that was kind of big. And this was pre-dating apps, kids. People were on dating apps back then, but it wasn't mainstream yet. I think only Tinder was out, and it was mostly hookups, right? So the day of the date, it's still mostly hookups, Oh, right, we have teenagers and kids here. Oh, hold on. That doesn't mean, that's just when you hold hands. So, the day of the date arrives. The day of the date arrives. We have, you know, we show up, it's at a Starbucks. We have the normal date conversation stuff going on, right? Except for every single time this poor girl, poor Becky, every time she begins to answer a question or begins to talk at all, I keep interrupting her. And I do not know why. I'm just so excited to share all my thoughts with her, maybe. I'm just nervous. But she starts talking about her family, and I just jump in and start talking about my family. Okay? Or she starts talking about her classes. Boom, here's what's happening with my classes. Like, I cannot let this girl finish a sentence. And I was aware of it. That's the worst part. As it was happening, I was like, why am I doing this? And I had like an out-of-body experience. Like, I was watching this train wreck of a date happen and was just powerless to stop it. This went on for probably an hour like that. Like, this poor girl. In her shoes, I probably would have gotten frustrated and left or said something like, dude, like, let me finish the sentence, you know? But she just sat politely through this terrible date with me, you know? Suffice to say, there wasn't a date 2. And even the way I handled the rejection was rude. She said kind of the standard, like, I'm not really looking to date, but I'd love to be friends thing. And I said, I don't really need new friends right now. Like, bro, wow, come on. You know, you just gave her this terrible date. You know it was a bad date. Anyway, and you can't even take the rejection. Anyway, so listening is sometimes something, as we saw in the moment of discipleship, right? Like, listening is what we're talking about this morning. Listening is something we humans tend to struggle with at times. And, you know, my ridiculous example is a pretty severe one, pretty extreme one. Obviously, interrupting is an obvious sign of terrible listening skills. But usually this is more subtle, right? Usually bad listening is like we mess up listening by we hear the other person, we let them talk, but we don't really seek to understand them. We're not really listening to their point of view. We're already thinking about like what we're going to say next, especially if it's an argument or something, right? We're thinking about our rebuttal, not necessarily their point. And this is so common in politics, in religion, in relationship arguments, etc. Or another, maybe even more common version of bad listening, when we just want to fix things, right? I'm so guilty of this even still. Someone's venting to you, and you start to feel a little bit of that anxiety or impatience, and you go, okay, right, yeah, you've been complaining for a while now. That's internal dialogue. Have you tried X, Y, and Z? Right? Sometimes there's a time and place for that, for like offering the advice, for trying to fix, but a lot of us struggle at knowing when that time and place is. Another way I would struggle with this, like that I've figured out after a long time that I would do, is someone would be like venting to me, and I would try to fix it, not by offering solutions, but by trying to just make them feel better. It's like pointing out the silver linings. It doesn't work. Like, I would be like, well, what about all the good things in your life, right? I'd be like, what about these good things over here? Almost like distracting. It's just another way of trying to fix the thing that they're venting about, but that's not what they want, right? They want to be validated. They want to genuinely just be listened to. They want you to say, that sounds really hard. That's awful that happened to you. I can't even imagine. And asking follow-up questions and etc. That's an important part, right? Because if you just say, whoa, bro, that sucks, it's kind of dismissive. People want to be listened to. Sometimes questions are part of the listening process too, right? I think we get that. I want to read a verse this morning that kind of illustrates this point a little bit. In James chapter 1, verse 19 through 21. This says, know this, my beloved brethren. Let every man be quick to hear and slow to speak and slow to anger. For the anger of man does not work the righteousness of God. Therefore, put away all filthiness and rank growth of wickedness, and receive with meekness the implanted word, which is able to save your souls. So listening is understanding. It's really seeking to understand where that person is coming from and trying to see their perspective. And all of these other things that this verse talks about, it kind of goes together with that. Meekness, slow to anger, etc. Because it shows two very important principles to being more like Jesus, and two important principles to being a good listener. They are patience and humility. Sometimes I think patience requires humility by its nature. It's having the humility to admit my life and my time is actually not so important that I don't have time for this other person, right? The stuff I have going on is not so important that I can't take time to really try to understand this other person. Or maybe put a better way, this person's opinion and their feelings and their need to be heard is worth my time. That requires some patience and humility to admit. Like, whatever this person has going on, that is worth my time in my life to listen to. Because we put a high value on our time. Am I right? You know, in some cases, time is like your most valuable resource. I think time for a lot of us is more important than money. Sometimes I still suck at doing this well. Recently, I think as I've hit 30 years old, and I feel like I'm allowed to be a little grumpier. You know, I'm just so annoyed with salespeople. I'm so sorry if you're in sales and you're in the room, but like, if I'm in Target and I'm looking at Legos, as one does, as all 30-year-olds do, as I'm looking at Legos in Target, I really do not want to be sold a new phone plan. You guys notice this? Like, every Target now, they got like the Targets, they have the Verizon salespeople. Like, I'm sorry, I really don't want to talk to you. So I will admit that there have been times where somebody will come up to me, like trying to sell me a phone plan, and I just say like, I'm sorry, no. Right? And it's mean. It's kind of like rude. And I don't know if I'm like ever that mean to strangers, but I'm grumpy. I'm old. So I think in those moments, I kind of stopped seeing that salesperson with thoughts, feelings, and value. For those moments, I just see the annoyance. I might even think of like, oh, the corporate BS and how annoying it is that Target isn't satisfied that I'm already spending money in their store, right? They also have to have this contract with Verizon to let them come sell things to me too. And I make all of that this other person's problem when I just rudely, flat out say, I'm not interested. I don't want to waste your time. Goodbye. I'm not saying buy the stupid phone plan, but I am saying we need to practice a little more patience and humility with just our fellow people, because that's what true listening and understanding requires. And I think this applies to a lot more than Verizon salespeople. And by the way, I'm already on Verizon. Like, stop. I do not need some kind of premier upgrade, but anyway, it's beside the point. Some other examples. When we see an unhoused person in need, even though we're running to a work meeting, maybe we stop and we get that person, that human person who has a story just like you and me and a reason they're in those circumstances. Maybe we stop, we get them a coffee or a lunch, even a few bills maybe, and a short conversation. Sometimes I think that with with unhoused people occasionally, what matters to them even more than your money and the food or whatever is your time and that short little bit of human connection, right? That short little moment of, I see you. Or, here's another example. With our friends, family, and loved ones, Thanksgiving, looking at you, right? It's coming up on Thursday, where politics, religion, all kinds of other potential battlegrounds get brought up. Maybe this year we choose to be the bigger person, the patient person, the listening person. And here's the fun part. When they interrupt you, you politely say, you interrupted me. Are you interested in hearing from my perspective, or would you only like to share your own? Oh man, they hate that. They hate when you're the bigger person. Oh gosh. No, they hate it. They'll call you the next day and apologize. It's great. Can't get enough of that. Listening is understanding. It requires patience and humility. So let's practice these principles that come directly from Jesus. And this week, if you guys want to think about these things with me, think about, am I being patient? Am I listening? Am I really seeking to understand people? Am I listening to them, not just hearing them? Really think about that with me this week, at home, at Thanksgiving, even at Target. All right, let's pray. Jesus, I'm so sorry for being so mean to that girl in Starbucks. And please forgive me. Also, please help us to develop and learn the listening skills that you have. You obviously have so much love and care for every single one of us, and you're the God of the whole universe, and yet you make time for every person. And I pray that we would learn to model that we would have the patience and the humility and the kindness to do that for others and to be present with them, to really seek to understand and not just hear them. In your holy and precious name I pray. Amen.